Bro, what if I talk like this? Bro, people will love that.
What, like ASMR?
Like, what's up?
BDSM?
Oh,
You know, bro. I can
Bobby
tell
Tide?
you. What about Bobby Shide? What about him?
I don't know. You said bro, and then I
Yeah.
thought you was gonna say something about Bobby Shide.
No, nothing.
That's weird.
That's no.
I really thought.
You really thought for a hot second, but you know what I can tell you.
What's up?
Episode started a while ago. I just didn't tell you about it.
Damn, sorry, Bobby.
This is what happens, bro.
I'm sorry, Bobby.
You gotta know about these things. But I just let it rock. You know what I mean?
Okay,
So
cool. So you did not tell me.
no, I just let it go. Organic conversation.
Wow.
How it normally goes.
Wow. I feel violated.
Violated.
Yeah.
I mean,
Anyways, now so I can hear myself.
you're wearing some really short shorts today.
I know they're pretty tight when I sit like this.
They slipped up. Like I don't know if you're trying to seduce me or something. Is that your girl?
No, it's Alexis.
Texas?
Yeah. I got her number.
Whoa, bro.
Personal hotline.
I hope.
She's annoying, actually.
You think so?
Yeah.
I
Calls me
wouldn't-
all the time.
I mean, I wouldn't let her listen to this podcast then. But
Look her up.
look her up. You want people to look up Lexus, Texas?
I mean, I don't think it's the same Alexis, Texas that I'm thinking about, but
Well, you said the name.
just don't look it up.
Don't look it up. All right. Fair enough. We can do that. We do whatever we got to do today. But you know why?
Why is that?
Because we are on episode 7 of the LeisureHub Podcast, graphic design versus web design. We back
Welcome
again.
very much.
You're looking at my soul right now.
Yeah, because that's what you said, last week? Welcome very much. I like that.
I didn't say welcome very much.
Yes,
this
you
time.
did, didn't you?
No,
Yes,
No, I
you
didn't.
did.
nope,
I thought
I
you did.
didn't. Did you know this was on the agenda for today?
What?
This graphic design versus web design.
I knew, or I was aware
You
about
don't know
2
nothing.
hours ago,
You don't know nothing, bro.
an hour ago.
You don't know nothing.
So yeah, I just go with the flow, bro.
Go with the flow, cause I'ma get him and hit him,
Bro, you should spit out them bars.
bro.
The world should know.
You're the one that has all the raps in their backlog.
No, I don't rap.
Pull up your Facebook.
Pull it up.
It's gone right now.
I have no Facebook.
You have no Facebook, no Instagram, no Threads, no Twitter, no TikTok.
That's weird for a graphic designer.
That is true. How do you find your inspiration?
The world is my inspiration.
That's very cliche.
I know. That's why I had to say it.
Well, while we're on the topic of graphic design, right?
Yes.
Graphic design is just pretty pictures, right?
Yeah.
A
little bit more than that.
What would you define graphic design as? I mean, I feel like a lot of people can define it as whatever, but how would you?
And this is completely
Define.
subjective because
No,
I feel like
it's not.
I feel like a lot of different people have different answers for this question.
Yeah.
But as like for me and what I think about it,
Mm-hmm.
the definition of graphic design is organic art disguised as organized art.
Organized. All right. Well, this is gonna be a derailed episode because I can already see it. But I'm gonna ask you one thing. We don't have to go super far into it.
Mm-hmm.
But would you consider any art that's created by AI graphic design?
I mean, I would have to see it first.
So
if it communicates a message,
sure,
effectively,
mm-hmm.
I would say yes.
What constitutes good graphic design?
Anything that's based off the principles of design or art,
Right. But
and fundamentals.
I guess couldn't you also say like good graphic design is anything it's function over formality? If it works, it's good design.
If it works, it's good design, but make it pretty.
Make it right, but
And I feel like that's the real challenge.
right.
To be honest, both of them could be a challenge. It depends, it depends on the design that you're working on.
Yeah.
Sometimes you could communicate it
Mm-hmm.
very easily.
Mm-hmm.
Or some others you can make it pretty very easily, but
Yeah.
it's going to be harder communicating the message when you're focused too much on making it pretty.
Yeah, but
I'd rather focus. Sorry, man.
No, you're good. You're
I
good.
just have so much to say. I'd rather focus much on how to communicate it effectively rather than making it look extremely pretty.
Sure. I guess in terms of keeping it pretty or making it pretty, couldn't that be all just subjective?
Yes.
Because, I mean, typically, like, you and I can look at design and be like, and not to make it so straightforward, but you and I can look at design and be like, that's good, that's bad. Just from a visual standpoint. And not even going into the in depths of like,
no, I agree with you.
Yeah. Not in like in depths of like, oh well, like is the kerning and the leading like on point, or is the spacing, is there an equal amount of spacing between this and that? Like not even that. It's just from a visual standpoint. Right. I do think people have an idea of what looks good and what doesn't look good. You know what I mean?
No, I agree with you.
So, and in that regard, web design is very similar to graphic design because it's very visual based.
I agree, especially the front end.
Yeah, the front end.
So the back end is completely different.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Well, but yes, and so that's kind of like for web design. Web design is more where you would basically say web design is based on, or graphic design is based off more pretty pictures, essentially, like very simplified version.
If you want to say it that way.
If you want to say it that way. Web design is basically a pretty layout, if you could say that. I mean, it's way more than just a pretty layout. You can't just say it in like 2 words, but that's how I would simplify web design to a very, very bare bones.
A pretty layout
description. Yeah, a pretty layout. That's all. That's pretty much all it is.
But it takes a lot to make a pretty layout.
Yeah. Or
because you could see a bad layout from the moment you see it.
Yeah. Or you can say it's like a pretty brochure. I would see. I actually would change my previous statement and say a pretty brochure instead. Specifically because a brochure is a start to finish, right?
Yes.
You go from the front page, you go to the secondary pages in the inside when you open it up, and you have a whole bunch of other different pages that are inside of that.
So it's like informational. Exactly.
And a website can be broken down into like kind of a brochure perspective if you think about it.
Like the function. Oh man, I'm having trouble.
Sorry. Yeah.
The functionality. Yes. So you're talking about the functionality.
Yes. The function. Well, yeah, functionality, how it works, I guess.
Okay.
Because essentially you come to a website purely for information. What do you use a brochure for?
To information.
Information. But it's pretty information, right?
That's where the front end would come in.
Yes. There are 2 different sides of web design. It's front end and back end. Front end is more how it looks, and a little bit of how it functions, like how the user interacts with it, versus back end is more data collecting, more intricate functionality, making sure that things are secure, making sure just kind of like that general thing, like collecting data, because if you're working in the database for web design or web development, you're working with MySQL, which is gathering of data, credit card information, people's login, passwords, all that kind of stuff. That's some background in back end. I don't know all of it because I mainly focus on front end development.
That's a complicated brochure.
Yeah. Bro, there's so much that goes into website. I mean, like, you have people going on Squarespace and Wix, and I have a strong opinion about the platform.
I want to know your opinion.
I think that they're extremely helpful to people. It saves people money, and it's quick, right? You can build a website in half the time it would take to pay somebody to build it. But I will say that a lot of people who build sites themselves who don't have a prior background in any type of design typically don't build them out correctly, or build them out in the best way possible. And I say that because part of going to school and part of learning the art of web design and web development isn't just like how to make things look pretty. It's how to make things work. And that goes back to what we were saying about functionality over formality. A website, first and foremost, has to work. Like, it has to function. And what I mean by that is you have to be able to get from point A to point B. The structure of the website has to go from point A to point B. If the user can't find what they're looking for, they're going to leave your website. And I feel
they just get annoyed with it.
They get annoyed with it. And I can say that I've gone to a lot of Squarespace and Wix websites that people have made that are very not directed at, they're not built for the user experience, meaning like it's not organized in a way for users to find what they're looking for. It's very bare bones, and that's why I say like anybody can have a sorry, I got a lot on this too. You got a lot of graphic design. I have a lot for web.
No, you're good. I just want to ask you a question.
Sure,
I feel like people would like to hear this question.
Yeah.
Or a question answered.
Sure.
So what if, you take Wix and Squarespace.
Sure.
Okay, these websites, and you take an experienced web designer as yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Could you potentially make a business just making Wix and Squarespace pages for other people?
Long story short, yes. I know I'm a man with plenty of words, but yes.
How convenient would that be for a web designer? Does it make their job easier, more boring, or like, can you elaborate on that? Like,
I would say it probably makes their job a little bit more boring, because in Squarespace and Wix, you are limited to the amount of things that you can do without coding. Now, there are alternatives to Squarespace and Wix. You have these plugins or these additional things that people use on a platform called WordPress. WordPress is also another type of website where you can pick themes and you can have people drag and drop and etc. But are these plugins called Elementor and Divi, and basically all they are is essentially the same things that you would do on Squarespace and Wix, and that's you dragging and dropping and customizing. But with these, they're more extensive, meaning you get more in those packages. Like you can customize, you can choose thousands of different fonts, colors, layouts. You can insert code into it if you want. Whereas with Squarespace and Wix, again, I haven't really worked in it, so I can't really say for sure. But I don't think you can really inject any code in a lot of the formats. It's a pre-built theme that you select from, and you got to work with that, and that's it.
Oh, see, that's interesting.
See, I know that was a lot. It was a lot.
And what if? Okay, so would you say that the front end of a web designer, right? Front end web designer, would that be more graphic design oriented? Yeah,
front end is more graphic design, especially if you're doing the design part of it, because there's more like classifications of like front end. You can purely just be the web designer where there's no code involved. Right, you're just designing it, and you're with the design. You're doing the UX UI, which is user interface and user experience, or you can do the front end, which is mainly just HTML, CSS, JavaScript coding that end, and taking like an existing design or design that you made and implementing it into your website.
So
a lot of fun stuff going on there, about right?
I mean, yeah, and interesting. Like it can make people's lives way easier. So what you're telling me is that a graphic designer that doesn't know any back end stuff, could potentially sell web design services through Wix and Squarespace.
Potentially.
There you go.
I think so.
If you want to make some money as a graphic designer, you don't know coding, maybe that's the way you can introduce yourself into the web design world.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's a trade-off, right? Okay. Could a web designer come and design graphic design stuff?
I mean, a designer's a designer,
right? But I have a point for it. But do you think? I mean, I have a background in both because I've dabbled in graphic design. Could I do what you do? Not entirely, but it would take me a little bit longer. I could eventually do it, but it wouldn't be to your caliber. But I ask you, like, do you think a web designer who's specifically just doing web design, right?
Okay.
And they're not doing a lot of like illustrations or anything like that, do you think a web designer could do what a graphic designer does?
I think they can.
I would disagree with you on that.
Why is that?
Because with a web designer, or with a graphic designer, you're doing sketches, right? You're doing illustrations. You're coming up with concepts on logos, brochures, layouts, like that kind of thing, right? A web designer's main format is desktop, tablet, and a phone. That's it. I mean, there's different screen resolutions and different screen sizes. So yeah, you can get intricate with it and like different displays. But your format is always web. Right. Where your format for graphic design constantly changes. There's like there's different things you can do.
Oh, there's a lot.
You have street signs, you have shirts, you have labels, you have hats, you have headphones, you have the design on packaging. Like you have a lot of stuff.
Right. But I feel like if you're a graphic designer and you're all into all these venues, that requires a lot of experience. Like sure. I don't know. I'm speaking for myself here, but I feel like most graphic designers have a specific like niche that they gravitate towards to. For example, like one of them would be packaging or, you know, magazines, like layouts. I feel like a graphic designer can do it all, but it would almost, I don't know if it would be impossible. Obviously it's possible for a designer to be experienced at a high level, like a black belt on every single venue. Yeah, I feel that would be very rare.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's a lot, but you could say the same exact thing in web design. Web design, there's so many different avenues you can take with it that then more than I realized when I was in school, that a lot of companies look for what they call full stack developers, which is like you do all of it. You do HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP.
It's definitely possible.
Ruby. Like there are people that do it. But what do you think? Do you think it's better to be firmly planted in one specific area or better to have a well-rounded of everything?
I think is whatever is required of you. So if I want to elaborate on this, you know, if you're at a job and your job requires you to be good at all of those, I think you should take advantage and actually learn. Why? Because it's part of your job. So why the hell not? Now, if you're at your job, right, and your job requires you to only be, you know, only excel in one of those things,
sure,
make sure you excel in those things, and then it will be your choice to, you know, I guess get better at the other venues. But I'm saying is, whatever it is that you're doing, just don't let it interfere with your everyday life. Don't get like, you know, what we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
Just make sure you have that inner peace.
Inner peace?
Yes, baby.
Nobody wants that.
Oh yeah, right. That's what everybody wants.
I don't want that.
But I'm saying you could do it all.
Yeah.
Don't be obsessed with like, oh, if I don't do this, it's gonna be over for me. I have to do it. I mean, but hey, chase your dreams.
Yeah. Well, so my point by asking you, do you think a web designer could do what a graphic designer does? I ask you that because I don't necessarily think, I think a graphic designer has the principles to do what a web designer does purely just from like the design portion, right? But I think it's more intricate than that. I think they have to like really study why a website works or why it works well, right? I think, because I mean, you've had exercises in school where you did a web design, right? Like
I remember that. It was like one class that we did like a mediocre website.
Yeah, and like while it wasn't bad, it wasn't.
It was bad.
No, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't what a website is. Like you were missing some fundamentals of like the structure.
Yes.
Right. It's like when you build a building, like you could theoretically design a building. Right, you as a graphic designer, theoretically,
right,
but you don't know the intricacies of like
the physics, the math.
Yeah, it's like goes
on behind it.
Yo, I built this really cool building, but it like bends to the left in a 90-degree angle. Like,
what are you doing?
It's like, how the hell is that going to work out? You know what I mean?
You can make it work.
I'm sure the engineers could make it work somehow. I don't know, but physics, like you said, there comes a point where what you make isn't practical.
Right.
But I will say in web design, there's pretty much no limit to what you could do, especially now. And if you're talking about the early 2000s with web design, web development, I would say be very cautious of what you're designing. But I will also say, to go along with that, is a lot of web, while it can be very creative and whatever, you can kind of like go off the deep end with it in terms of the design. The other thing that you have to keep in mind when you're designing it is the mobile aspect of it. Like, is this, when I'm designing this, is this going to work on my phone? And a lot of times, like, you can make something crazy cool, and there's a website called awards.com. If no one's ever heard of it, go to awww.com, awards.com.
Really cool websites.
I forgot the D. I spelled it wrong.
It's almost like a museum of websites.
Bro.
Really cool.
The people who are on there are really talented. They're like light years beyond me, light years beyond my skills in design and development. Because I design and I can develop websites, but I'm better at the design portion. But like a lot of these sites that are built are crazy cool, and what I've noticed is like the mobile versions for your phone, they don't work. They purely made it just for desktop, for visual, just to showcase what they can do from a technological standpoint.
Like, you actually went into these websites?
Yeah, and I went on my phone and I'm like, these sites don't work. Wow. Some of them don't work. Like, they don't work because like things are like off to the side, or you can't really do anything with it. It's because it's more of like a user experience built for the desktop, not for your phone. You can make it for your phone, but there's intricacies to that I don't know about fully. So, but that's what I would say. I mean, that's a lot of things that I would say that end up happening with web design, right? Like, you have to know the nitty gritty in it and some tools. Yeah. Speaking of which, I'm curious, what tools do you use for graphic design versus me? Because I'm curious to throw that idea around.
What tools?
Yeah, like tools, like how you create your stuff.
So I guess I would have to dive into my process a little bit.
Actually, you know what? Second thought, nobody wants to do that.
So first, in order to go over my tools, I kind of have to dive into the process of what I do a little bit. So I feel like 20% of the work is digital, and that's how I work with
20%. Yeah.
I would say about even less than 20% is digital.
Sure.
What I like to do is actually, if I'm creating something new, I try to write things out, come up with concepts, and then go into the sketches, do some thumbnails, loose thumbnails, and then I would go into more concentrated thumbnails, and then I would, if it's a logo or something, I would make it as good as I can, and ink it and redo it, add color, and then I would transfer it to to the computer, right? Because so much easier once you have almost a finished product done by hand. It's so much easier to do it in the computer. Yeah, and I guess that being said, most of my tools would be pencil, markers, any media, I guess, especially if you're a fine artist. I mean, once you have a finished work, anything digital could be really easy. Not really easy, but it makes the process easier. Right. And then Illustrator, I try to do Illustrator. I mean, right now, I feel like the main program is Procreate. And
well, is that something you've been looking at, or is that something that you personally use?
No, I don't use it yet, but dude, I feel like I'm falling behind. You
think so?
Yeah. So Procreate, I feel like it's mainly used in the iPad Pro. So I've been seeing these people make these crazy things, with Procreate and the iPad Pro with just using the Apple Pencil. Is it the Apple Pencil? What is it? What's it called?
Yeah, no, it's the Apple Pencil.
Right?
The Apple Pencil.
The Apple Pencil.
The most famous thing you could possibly get. I mean, from what I could tell.
Insane.
Would you say like an iPad is better than a Wake tablet? I mean, you've never used one, have you?
Yes, I have a Wacom tablet.
No. The iPad Pro.
No, I haven't used it. Yeah. But seeing on YouTube how these people use it, and how you can just draw in it. Yeah. Like, man, it's so cool. It makes it seem easier in a way.
It makes you wet.
Yes, it makes me really wet. No, but
that's nasty.
Anyways, but I use Illustrator.
Sure.
And I feel any program that you use, you can look it up on YouTube, how to do this effect, on how to calibrate your brushes.
Yeah.
All that, all you have to do is look it up on YouTube, look it up on Google. But the only tool that you really need is your brain. You know, that's where the creative process happens.
You're getting too like deep for me, man. I have
to keep it simple. Your brain is all you need.
Brain is all you need. Well, what about drawing it out? If you don't have like pencil and paper, that's where it starts. Well, it starts in your mind.
Without your brain, pencil and paper ain't squat.
Okay. But like after that, after your brain, because you can have the idea, but like
yes,
after that,
I'm just trying to be, just clear that, don't scratch an idea simply because you don't have some tools.
Right.
You get.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. Well, I think specifically with that, right? That point, I think for myself, I have gone through periods where I'll draw something up, right? I'll sketch it out.
Yes.
And then I'll take it into Illustrator. And this is more on the graphic design side, but I'll take it into Illustrator and I'll try to like make it look good. I'll try to like, all right, it's time to use the pen tools, trying to spice this bad boy up. And I'm like, bro, this looks like shit. It's like, it's not easy. Like you make it look like it's easy, bro.
You probably need to spend more time with the pen.
Well, I don't mean the pen specifically. I mean like the pen tool in Illustrator, like using your mouse and clicking and dragging and creating it. I think part of my issue is that I get part of the way, like I'm missing detail. Like there's some detail that needs to be put into it in order to make it fully come together.
You okay, bro?
Yeah, I'm good. Okay. I was crying. I was getting really emotional about it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You hear that?
I don't know. It's weird.
No, but I'm getting really emotional about it because when I think about it, I think about how I could never amount to anything, and you're just so much better than
Shut
me.
Up.
And
the pen tool is probably when you're starting out, it's probably the hardest thing to get used to it. But the only way you're gonna get used to it is if you use it over and over and over again. Eventually, you're gonna get used to the way it curves and how you need to how you need to drag it in order to make a certain curve, and that's just it.
There's a nuance to it.
Yeah, but to be honest, bro, I rarely use the pencil.
What do you use? That's weird.
I try to make everything I do either like circles, and that would go off of another circle, or would like. I don't use the pen tool a lot.
That's interesting.
If I want to have a curve,
yeah,
I use this like the ellipse or ellipse tool or something, and I just kind of like, manipulate it in order to make that certain curve, and then I just take add anchor points and just delete stuff out. I mean, you could be creative, you could be like as open as you want on how you do things in
right. There's really no set guideline to I'll say there are guidelines to graphic design, like your typical like don't do this, don't do that, do this, do this, do that, blah blah blah. Same thing with web design, you could say the same exact things. But once you get down those fundamentals, your process can be any way that you want it to be.
Completely up to you.
Anyway, and it's interesting that you say that about the tools or about the pen tool, because there was a period of time where everything I created in Illustrator, I only wanted to use shapes to create it.
Yeah.
Which, from what I've seen from a lot of different people, like that's pretty much how you make most of it. That's how you get your exact things. Because when you can use the pen tool, and some people are crazy good with it.
Yes.
But like if you want things exact and precise, shapes. That's exactly how the Apple logo was made.
Yeah.
All circles. Completely all circles.
And it's magic.
It's magic.
Yeah.
Well, I would say coding, web design is more magic than I would say graphic design, but that to each their own.
Subjective.
Subjective. Some tools that I use, right, where it kind of differs is I don't ever really use a pen and paper ever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Not even to do your layouts?
Layouts. Can you? Yes. Can people do that? Absolutely. People will do like wireframes first. But to be honest,
what is a wireframe, bro?
A wireframe?
Come on. What is that?
A wireframe is basically when you take a wire hanger.
I'm not believing
You're
this.
like, I'm not entertaining it. No. A wireframe is basically if you look at the structure of, I don't know, Amazon's website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you build out the web page, how it looks with just using boxes. That's it.
So you don't thumbnails.
Thumbnails.
Like, okay.
You don't use color. You don't use like we barely use any text. It's mainly just boxes, and you kind of like label some stuff so you know what you want that to be.
See, that's important.
But that's pretty much it. So I've noticed this, like that's a normal process for a lot of web designers, but I don't do that.
Bro, why not?
I don't like it. I don't like
why
going
don't you
into
like
wireframes. I think I just want to get straight into the design. And I jumped straight into it. You shake your head at me and you judge me, and you know what? This podcast is about to end because I'm going to come over there and I'm going to fight now. I'm kidding. No, but like I know that it's routine to kind of like do wireframes, not just in web design, but in graphic design. Like it's funny. Graphic design, like if I'm doing like a logo or whatever, or if I'm doing a poster or whatever, like I've designed my grandmother's prayer cards. I did sketches for that. I do the sketches just so I know with the placement.
Right.
Actually, for hers, I don't think I did that. But for this card that I made for Victoria, I did a sketch for that. Just like a rough sketch. And then I was like, oh, cool. I have an idea. Now I'll take it into Illustrator. But with web design, like I typically have a process of like, I've gone into a routine of I get some inspiration. I think about what I've done, what I haven't done, what's popular, what's trending. And I'm like, cool. And I just like throw some stuff on a page, kind of like lay it out, and it just ends up coming together. It looks really good.
It does look good.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of concept, but I wouldn't have imagined that you didn't do thumbnails. You just dove right into it.
I just
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So and the thing is, you can use a pencil and paper if you really want, but I don't know a lot of people that do it that way. What are you sucking on the mic for?
What are you talking about?
Oh, see, now you're caught.
Bro, what are you talking about?
See, now you're caught.
Bro, what are we were just talking about.
You were doing stuff over there. Like you've been doing it ever since we started the podcast. You've been doing weird stuff over there because you think we don't have video right now.
Defamation.
Your defecation?
Whatever it's called. He's defamating me.
I think you know what defecating means, right?
Defecating?
Yes.
No.
You know what it means?
No, what is it?
It means crapping yourself.
Oh.
Yeah. Like when you die, you defecate. Like you poop yourself.
Ain't no way that happens.
To you. It doesn't happen. You don't poop?
I don't poop.
Yeah, I've died before. I've never pooped. I've never pooped.
Never pooped.
But it's funny because like you could use a pencil and paper to do wireframes or whatever for web design, but like I don't know a lot of people who do that. They would probably just go in the program that they use, like either Illustrator or they go in Adobe XD or Figma
for websites.
Yeah, and they can do the wireframe purely based on that.
Okay.
I've only worked for 2 companies that I've done web design for. None of them have been your traditional like web design industry or web design company. So I don't know how some people actually do it or how you do it in a business setting. But what I've seen is people will go on like a whiteboard and they'll literally like draw it out on a whiteboard and they'll say like, this is where the image goes. Here's the box here. There's the box here, box. And they'll label it and they'll do like actual planning on like strategical planning of like, this goes here. The content's going to go here. This is why you go from top to bottom. And it's like the user was going to scroll from this point to this point. Very strategic. So you can do that. But from what I've noticed, you can also just do that on the computer. Like you can purely just go in, draw those boxes and make a layout, a wireframe yourself. Like you don't need to do it on pencil and paper. You don't need to do it on a whiteboard. But it's like you said, it depends on what you like. Once you get comfortable with doing it, you can do it however you want.
Yeah, it's like, kind of like subjective. People just.
But I would say, like, if you're doing it at the very beginning, you should probably stick to doing like wireframes in the very beginning, stuff like that. Just so that way you have an idea of what the layout needs to be. Were you trying to wrap me up?
No, I'm just saying, just to get used to it.
You wafting the?
No, I'm making a hand sign just like so people get used.
That's not a hand sign, bro. That's a gang sign.
This?
Yes.
I'm holding 4 fingers up.
4 fingers is a gang sign somewhere.
Yeah, okay.
But typically I use Adobe XD, which is just a web building program.
What does it focus on?
It's mainly focuses on app design or web design, and you just build things out there. You can draw, print in images. It's like a simplified version of Adobe Illustrator. I would say. So
it's a wireframe app.
Wireframe app, and then you can kind of make things look pretty in there too. That's usually where I do all of my designs in Adobe XD. A lot of people use Figma. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Figma is another one that it's basically like Adobe XD, but a lot of people use that for the capabilities that it has. Adobe XD is playing catch up with a lot of these features. So I have yet to try out Figma, but I also use, and there's one other program that you didn't mention besides Illustrator or actually 2 that you didn't mention that you use. Maybe not on the regular, but you do use.
That's InDesign and Photoshop.
InDesign and Photoshop.
Yep, that should be your 3 main apps.
Yeah.
InDesign, Photoshop, and Illustrator. At least that's what the teachers or professors would say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, besides those, what would you use? Like, if you're doing illustrations on the computer, besides Photoshop, what would you use?
See, I have a philosophy. If you're a designer, you're a designer, so you could use any app.
Give me an example other than Illustrator.
Other than Illustrator, for an example, like people use Procreate.
Besides that, because before that was a thing.
Lightroom.
Lightroom?
Yes.
Lightroom's for photography.
If you're a graphic designer, you're gonna deal with photography.
Web design also deals with photography, but more graphic.
But this
design.
is what I mean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. But those 3 are the bare bones.
Yeah, right.
But that doesn't limit you to what you can do. You know, as a full designer, like you're a graphic designer. You're a designer.
Yeah,
you're a creative. Don't limit yourself to just what you know.
It's
but
like
those would be the bare bones. Yeah,
right.
Those 3.
Isn't there a program called Sketch? Have you heard of that one?
No.
I'm pretty sure there's a thing called Sketch. I don't really. I think it's like a diamond, like an orange diamond.
I don't know. What is that?
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
I'm gonna look it up too.
Well, you look it up, and I'll just continue on my little rant. But
Sketch.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between web design and graphic design. I've used InDesign a handful of times in school. I've used it. But I'm definitely nowhere near as familiar with it as I am with Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, and Adobe XD. Is that a thing? Is it a real thing? Sketch?
I'm not sure. It says design, collaborate, prototype, and handoff. So I'm assuming, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've never used it, so I can't really tell. Or I can't really tell you what what it entails. But that might be something worth looking at.
Yeah.
So, oh man, Pedro.
What's up, buddy?
You know what I'm thinking?
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, I don't know. I'm just thinking about how the visual cues are different for graphic design and web design. You know what I mean?
Visual cues.
Visual cues.
Elaborate on that.
So with graphic design, right?
Uh-huh.
You can draw an oval. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you can put 2 circles, one on the left, bottom left, and one on the right.
Hold on. 2 circles.
So you have an oval.
Yes.
Right? You have 2, and you take 2 circles.
Oh my God.
What?
Go ahead, continue.
And you put one on the bottom left and one on the bottom right.
Yeah.
And you rotate it, and that makes Squidward's nose.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Bro, see, I can be a graphic designer. Easy. Done.
It is.
No, but
visual cues.
What I'm talking about with visual cues are You work mainly with images and typography. Mainly.
Images, illustrations, and typography. Yeah.
But those are like the main things, right? Whereas with like web design, it's more about interactive elements such as like UI and responsive design.
There's a lot more that goes into it.
Yeah, well, and then this is just the design. I mean, functionality, it's whatever.
Mm.
So tell me about typography and imagery. You tell me about that. Because you know what?
Yes.
I didn't go to school for it. I kind of just learned small things here and there from you, from like the internet, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know, like what does that entail?
I would say good design, especially good graphic design.
I don't want to hear that junk, bro. It's the same thing. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear your thing.
You know what, bro? I'm just going to leave. No, but my thing. Okay, I would say my thing.
Sure.
And this is what I think still. Like good design would always have, good imagery and good type.
Yeah.
And
well, what's good type?
Good type, I feel like, in my opinion, if the good type complements the image, it makes a good design.
But what if I feel like Comic Sans fits the image for whatever I'm doing?
Then it fits the image for whatever you're doing.
It doesn't. Comic Sans is always wrong.
No, it's not.
There's only one case scenario where you would use Comic Sans. I'm telling the graphic designer when you would use Comic Sans. Only use it if it's child oriented, like Crayola crayons, something like that.
See, you're making up a rule.
Everybody, no.
As a graphic designer, that's a challenge for me. And now I want to make Comic Sans.
Do it.
Make it good.
Because I can guarantee you, everyone hates Comic Sans.
I hate it.
Exactly. That's
but I feel like as a graphic designer, somebody telling me that I can't use Comic Sans makes me want to use Comic Sans and make it look good.
Okay. But I get it. I get what you're trying to say.
It's a challenge. I'm not saying I'm going to be successful, but it's just a challenge.
There was this guy I watched on TikTok not too long ago, and basically he took Papyrus, another crappy font. I'll throw it on the screen. And then you have Comic Sans, another crappy font. And he's a graphic designer, and he tried to make those look as professional as possible, and he did a pretty good job with it, but people could still tell that it was Comic Sans Papyrus. There was a couple other ones that I'm not really too familiar with. There's like a Western font, whatever.
Sure.
But anyway, long story short, he ended up making them look pretty good. People could still tell, but like there was those are kind of the rules that we were just talking about not too long ago. Is like there are certain things that are kind of like taboo, and there's certain things that are just like there's some things like cool, use it. Right, like Helvetica. Helvetica is arguably a good or bad font. I mean, depending on how you use it. I've seen it where it's been used pretty well,
right?
But you can use it in the wrong way, and it doesn't look that great.
I mean, it all depends on the overall image, And Helvetica I feel like it's widely used.
No, it is for
good reason.
Yeah, you remember Will Lowry? From our school, he used Helvetica for a project years ago, and it actually looks pretty good. I was like, oh, Helvetica! I would have never thought to use that.
I see Helvetica as Itachi.
As Itachi?
Yes, I see Helvetica as Itachi because a lot of people would say they almost don't want to like Itachi because it's cool, and it's cool to like Itachi.
Wait. Who's Itachi?
Come on, man.
I know who Itachi is, but like you gotta let other people who know who Itachi is.
Come on, bro. He's an Uchiha legend.
You know, man.
He's Sasuke's brother, bro. Come on, man. Naruto for all of you who don't know, right?
I've never watched it.
No, man. Yes. I'm not gonna explain this now.
No,
this is a topic for another episode.
No, but yes, Itachi is.
I feel like Helvetica and Itachi, like it's cool to like Itachi. It's almost like. You don't want to like Itachi because everyone likes Itachi. Well, that's kind of how I feel about Helvetica. But Itachi is cool and overrated because he deserves to be overrated.
Well, do you feel the same way about Ariel then?
Ariel?
Yeah, Ariel.
Who's Ariel?
No, I don't mean the character. I mean the font.
Oh, the font.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I feel this way just with Helvetica. And Helvetica is a good font.
It's a good font, yeah.
But I don't want to use it a lot because it's used a lot.
Overused.
But for good reason. So I can't be mad.
Because it's good. I'm doing just like Gotham. Our font for Glyphics uses Gotham.
Yeah.
Great font. But I feel like a lot of companies and a lot of people do use Gotham because it's such a thick, bold.
It's a good font too. Yes, it is.
What's that?
It's a good font.
Yes, it's a great font. But yeah, I mean, like, do you see yourself noticing a lot of these fonts? Like, can you pick out a font from a mile away? Cause like you could say, oh, I looked at that font, I know exactly what the font that is.
No.
But
I'm not that designer.
Why? Do you think that's excessive, or do you think that's
no? I mean, there's people that genuinely know these typefaces because they work with them on the regular and they always work with them. But me, as a designer, back then I remember I would try to memorize these typefaces just so people can acknowledge that I am a designer. You know what I mean? But I feel like, bro, if you naturally know these typefaces, let it be natural.
Well, now you use the word typeface and not a font. What's the difference?
I don't know the difference.
You don't know the difference?
No, I don't know.
I honestly don't remember it either.
I don't.
There's a difference between a font and a font and the typeface. There's a difference, but I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, but all this talk in reality does not matter.
No.
What matters is when you're making a specific design, you don't care if you call it a typeface or a font, as long and Helvetica might be a good font.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is a good font,
mm-hmm.
but depending on how you use it on the project that you're working on, is what's gonna make it a good font or a bad font.
Right.
So everything is subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just because Helvetica is a good font, as somebody who's not a designer, I have to use this because it's a good font and it's gonna make my design look good. That is completely false.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you can use whatever font you want, and it could be the font that everybody else uses, and it could be the best font ever.
Mm-hmm.
But if you use it wrong, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
It doesn't has no. It depends on the person itself. It's like the what's the term when it's the person controlling the pen. Right, like when you're writing something, right? It's not the pen. It's not the pen that makes you a good writer.
It's
the person.
Yes.
It's the person.
It's the driver.
Idea. Yeah,
it's not the car. It's the driver.
Yeah. Or now we're getting to gun violence. Is the gun the killer?
Oh God.
Was it the gun or was it the person? Well, the guns don't kill. Okay, whatever.
We would not get into that.
No, we don't. I mess around with it, but we don't touch that subject ever because it's not fun. People get too serious about it.
Yeah.
Rightfully so, but people, you're entitled to your opinion.
Subjective.
But like I think like it's funny because like I was looking up different things to talk about for this topic, right? And it's like, yeah, you and I both work in these specific industries, but it's just, I don't know. Sometimes you just need some like idea generation, right? Like you just need to like think of some ideas, right?
Yes,
and
a creative block.
Yeah, and it's like what I was looking up is like, oh, graphic design mainly deals with imagery and typography, and I'm like, I'm reading it, and I'm like, see, I disagree with that. At least for me, I do a lot with photo manipulation and a lot of typography. I could do tons of stuff with it. I mean, I don't do it on the whole level of you where you make custom fonts. I don't do it on the level where I'm like constantly changing the kerning and leading.
I love custom font. I'd rather do a custom font than choose a font.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do that, but I definitely do pick my own fonts, and then I play with the size. I play with like the spacing in between the paragraphs of text, which is kerning, right?
Wait, what?
Like if you have
in between the lines?
That's kerning.
Leading.
Leading, bro. I ask you this every single time. Is it leading or is it kerning? But I do play around with that a lot, and I do play around with imagery. Like I'll go into Photoshop, I'll cut people out, I'll manipulate, I'll like change them, I'll like change the lighting on it. I'll like take bits and pieces out of other imagery and put them on the page. Like it's all, to me, that's all photo manipulation, which is similar to graphic design. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so where graphic designers have images and typography and illustrations, we have interactive elements in UI and responsive design. So I'll start with the last one first. So responsive design is kind of like what we were talking about before, which was you design a concept.
Yes.
Or at least now, you design a concept with mobile phones in mind, right? If you design a website, that website should have like an alternative version to it, which adapts to your phone, it'll adapt to your tablet. And along with that, you have every other screen size that goes along with that. So there's a whole process with that, and we'll go into it, but you have that as well. You have interactive elements, right? When you hover over a button, it does different things, right?
Yeah. It could do like animations.
It can do
anything,
animations. Right? You can have it change from like a light color to a dark color. You can have it change from a color to an outline, which it's like let's say if it's a red button, and if you hover over it, it's a red border around it, and like the center of it is now white, so it's see-through. Or you can swap it. There's like tons of variations you can do. People throw icons in their buttons. Like you can have your content, when you scroll, you can have your content like slide up. You can have, when you click send on a contact form, like I've seen people do, like I have a little paper airplane. When you hit send, it'll fly across the screen and it'll land back in the button, and it'll say it's complete. That's really
cool.
Like it's fire. That's
you
so
can get
dope.
really creative with this type of stuff.
There's no limit to what you can do in almost like graphic design, web design. But like when you boil it down, like you're like, wow, there's a lot of graphic design in what I'm doing.
So what programs would you use to make these type of animations?
You can do a lot of stuff with purely just CSS, which stands for cascading style sheet. You know how long it took me to remember that?
How long?
Forever. I studied it just for today. No, I'm kidding. Like I don't like, kind of like you getting into like, oh, well, you don't need to know what kerning is and letting is. Like you don't really need to know the difference between a font and it's the font family and what's the other one? We said
what?
Typeface? Typeface, yeah.
See, I would say you would need to know those things in order to communicate with another designer.
Yeah. But like I don't know, like I feel like the most you need is like, oh, change the spacing between the letters, change the spacing between in between the lines. Like that's like you can communicate that without using
no man, that's kerning.
Nah, like an asshole. Nah, bro.
No man.
I feel like when you're a designer and you really get into it in the very beginning, you want to use those terms.
Yes,
because it makes you sound cool.
Exactly. Like, but are you cool though?
No, you end up being you end up being that guy that's like, all right, this kid's an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. You okay? So, anyways,
don't change the subject when you just ask. What about
you did? What programs do you mainly use in order to do a website? Like right now, if you got told to make a website, what programs are in your head?
I use a Lego building blocks. I use Jenga.
I don't judge you.
That's what I do, man.
Lego building blocks.
So from start, I guess what I typically will use is Adobe XD.
For your mainframe purposes.
That's mainly purely
like my vocab. Mainframe. I mean, no, is it mainframe? No, wireframe. Look at me, wireframe purposes.
I don't like that you're taking this as a joke. This is supposed to be an education thing, and you're taking it as a joke.
And it's not a joke.
Why are you laughing?
I'm trying to exercise my new words.
Well, you're getting them wrong.
Wireframe.
Wireframe, bro.
Okay, wireframe. Anyways, you do your wireframing in Adobe XD.
I do a lot of my wireframing concepts, designs in Adobe XD. Now, if I was coding it, right? Originally, I was using this program called Dreamweaver, which is an Adobe Dreamweaver. I don't really use it anymore.
Why not?
Because I've watched a lot of YouTube videos of people, and not a single one of them used Adobe Dreamweaver at all.
Why is that?
I think from what I gathered, there's other programs that you can use for, and this is for coding, by the way. This is like code HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and you can do PHP. You can do a whole bunch of other coding languages in it as well. But the reason why I think other people use different programs is because the other programs are versatile, meaning you can do more with those. You can add more plugins, or they're customizable. Mm-hmm. Right now, I use a program called Sublime, which is just a text editor. So you code in it. You can choose any language. You can choose anything from PHP to MySQL to Ruby, basics like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I know, fancy terms, right?
Dude, I'm lost. You keep talking.
You're drooling. I can see.
I'm like,
why is your shirt wet?
Oh shoot.
Oh no, you're lactating. Sorry.
Yeah. I like that.
What, you're lactating?
No, I'm lactating.
I mean, you are a dad. Dads lactate.
Yeah, surprisingly. If you're not a dad yet, just expect that to happen.
It'll happen eventually. But yeah, those are the typical things that I use. I start with Adobe XD, and then I'll kind of like, depending on what I need to do, I'll work in Adobe Photoshop, and then I have some Illustrator. I don't know. You're just bobbing your head over there. I don't like it,
bro. You pop into Illustrator?
Yeah, pop into Illustrator, Photoshop, Adobe XD, coding for Adobe Sublime. If I'm not using those, I would be using WordPress, which is what we talked about before, page builder. And I think it's a lot easier now to use a page builder, drag and drop, and those that are more customizable. It gets the product out way faster. So that's typically what I'll use. We're taking a little bit on this.
A what?
A little bit, like a long time.
Oh,
and so
I mean, dude, there's not a lot of knowledge.
Do that again?
No.
There's a lot of knowledge, but to speed things up a little bit, I had a point on here for similarities, but I'm like, we've been talking about similarities the entire time, so like whatever, not a big deal. But two other points that I want to talk about, and we're going to let you guys go have a great night's sleep, dream about graphic design, web design. You're gonna think
about graphic design.
No, but you're going to think about that sound effect Pedro just made. I'll play it back right now. And I'll play it back. And so you dream about that, right? But we're going to get to that point. We're wrapping up shortly.
Wrapping up?
Yeah, give me a nice wrap. Anyway, so who would you say you typically target with graphic design? Like your target audience, like who are you targeting as as the consumer? Like I think I know who I'm targeting.
Yeah, but I guess that's different with every project that you come. If you're not a product based designer, I guess that question would only be asked to a product based designer, which is like, if you're selling something yourself, if you're selling your own product, you're obviously selling it to a specific audience. Yeah. But if you are a designer that is service based, then your audience will change every time you do a project, 'cause you don't know what's coming. Yeah. So you would have to adapt every time you change.
Do you like that?
From project to project? Huh?
Do you like that? Would you say you prefer having something that is, that's volatile, which means it changes from thing to thing? Or would you say, I don't know, I've never worked in a graphic design position, or something that's you're purely just doing one thing and that's it, graphic design wise?
If I'm doing one thing, I would like to work for a hobby. For example, it has to be something that I love. So if I would have a product that I sell, I would use my graphic design abilities to sell something that I guess, would contribute to an industry that I love and consider a hobby.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I would get bored if I don't do that.
Right.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of also, changing or adapting from project to project, because some different here and there, but I don't like, I guess, working with specific clients. What are you doing, bro?
Nothing.
I don't like working with specific clients, and I know that a lot of graphic designers can say the same thing.
Yeah.
Some clients are going to come and you're going to love them and you're going to love the project that you're working on, but not every client. I would say about 70% of the clients are not that.
The pastor.
Are not that. 70% of the clients are not that. And
he was a tough client. That's
yes, we've had some pretty tough clients, and I feel like if you're in the service part of graphic designing, you're gonna encounter that a lot. So you really have to love what you do more than you would love dealing with clients.
Yeah.
You have to love graphic design. You have to love what you do in general. This doesn't go with just graphic design or web design. This goes with everything.
Yeah.
Because you're going to encounter clients and you're going to have to decide, is this worth what I'm doing or is it not? So you really have to love what you do in order to in order to deal with them clients.
That's really hard, honestly, saying no to a client, because you're potentially saying no to money, like in the sense of freelancing. Because obviously if you're working for somebody, you don't really have that say that you can say no or yes to the client.
If you're a freelancer.
Right. But that's really hard. I think I agree with your point. I was going to give like an answer for who I'm targeting.
Who are you targeting?
For who I'm targeting for web design. But like it's pretty much everybody, right? It depends. It depends on specifically job wise, but like everybody uses a website, so it's my target audience is wide, but it changes from project to project.
Yes.
Right. In my case, with my job, it's the same target audience the entire time. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. But like if I'm doing freelancing, that'll change depending on what the client is going for. Like if it's a restaurant which we've designed and developed for before, then obviously you're appealing to people who like to eat food.
But that in itself, what if it's a restaurant? What if that restaurant appeals more to younger people?
Well, yeah, you can do like demographics.
It goes way deeper.
Yeah.
Than just people that like to eat food.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to connect with your client, because you don't know the audience. You're trusting in your client that they know.
Yeah.
Their audience.
Well, you got to learn a lot of this stuff from scratch. You got to like ask all these questions to learn. You're basically learning about that company, right?
Yes.
Or you're getting in the head of the CEO or the owner of the company.
Yeah.
So you can give them the proper brand that they're looking for, right?
Yes.
And the last thing, right?
What's up?
What or how long would you say a typical project is? And I know they can vary, but if you let's say just logos, for example.
Okay.
Logos. Like how long would you say it typically takes you to make a logo?
I would say on the average, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to say something else. On the average, it would probably take me about 18 to 20 hours to do a logo.
18 to 20 hours?
Why are you laughing, bro?
18 to 20 hours?
18 to 20 hours to do a logo, I would say. So maybe, but that's on I guess that's if I'm like on a corporate level.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I guess I would have to say 18 to 20 hours for the person to know more.
Yeah.
And you want somebody to know how long it's going to take you. But in reality, if I want to make sure that you have a good logo, it's going to take me, anywhere from 18 to 40 hours. I mean, I'd rather have more time in my hands to think, and especially to think and get my ideas out. Because the way I work with things, my sketches and my thumbnails take a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are contracting me, I want to make sure that everything that I'm doing is for your growth.
Right.
and I value more quality than quantity.
Right. And I'm going to leave it with this because we could go on for this specific topic for a little bit. But the more time you spend on a project, especially if you're doing freelance, the more the client is paying money.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, if a client is looking for something and they're knowledgeable in graphic design or like that industry, they're not going to want to pay you for additional time, right? I mean, if they're hiring you, they can. It's all based on what they want, right? But ideally, if they're like, oh, on average, it takes a logo, I don't know, 18 to 25 hours. I'm just making up a number. Mm-hmm. But if typically they say that and you're like, well, and you charge them for 32 hours, they're like, why are you charging me for 32 hours when you could have gotten this done in 25?
Yes.
And you tell them that and you're like, I don't want to pay for that because that's not what I think that the project can be done in way sooner.
And then you have to negotiate.
Right. Then you have to negotiate. And so those are different intricacies that you can get into with like specifically working with a client. With websites, man, I wish I was like, I don't know, but websites can take, at least for me, because I do the design and then I do the coding. Typically, if we're doing the all of it, it's about 3 months, a 3-month process.
If you're doing everything,
yeah, by myself. That's just being by myself. I'm kind of slow, but that means that like I'm not trying to like play competition here, but like I'm definitely spending way more than 30 hours on a website. Right. Like I'm spending like 50, 60 hours on a website because if you split up the projects, like if somebody's doing the design and somebody's doing the coding, you can probably cut that in half.
Yeah,
because you're splitting up the work. But I'm definitely spending a lot of time like between the design and development. Now I haven't done it in a while, and I've gone faster, or I've changed the process a little bit to make it faster. What, like I said, with Elementor, the drag and drop thing. But like I would say, oh man, I would say probably like anywhere from 60 to 80 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah.
See, I don't know a damn thing.
80 hours is like probably if you're doing a lot of e-commerce stuff, which is like the websites that you can buy products off of. If you're building stuff like that from scratch, yeah, you're easily spending like 80 hours on that.
Wow.
Yeah, easily.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. I mean, I may be misinformed with that, but like that's at least how long it usually takes me. Maybe I'm just slow.
But that's you. That's just you.
Yo, I'm slow. Is that what you're saying?
No, you're not slow. You're not fast.
You're not slow. You're slow and steady wins the race.
To me, it's more of like however long it takes to get a good product.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I would much rather spend more time on a project to make sure it's good than to rush it and it ends up not being great. But there is a difference between like taking your time and just kind of like I'm just casually working on it. You know what I mean? There's a difference between that.
But that's why I highly recommend. I mean, I know we're gonna finish here soon, but that's why I highly, highly, highly recommend that if you want to become a graphic designer or a web designer,
right? No web.
You would go into a product-based, designing life, like just design products for something that you love. And that just speaks to me because that's just how I see things. If you see things differently, then that's on you. But I feel like that would work better. I feel like that would work better with you designing a product because you could take as much time as you want. Yeah. Basically, as long as you make a good design / product.
Yeah.
I'm saying product a lot.
Product.
But anyways, yeah, if once you get that product done, it's out in the world and it's good and you can make money while you go to sleep.
Yeah, you could. I mean, there's different ways to do that. We can talk about that in another podcast. Right. Because actually, that would be good. Let us know if you want that, right? Like how to make money in web design or graphic design, right? That could be. I mean, you and I both kind of see web design and graphic design as more of a hobby right now.
Yes.
And so But I mean, like overall, like this is the overall. Do you know what I mean, bro?
Overall,
I'm playing the tangerine. No, but yeah, like at the end of the day, graphic design, web design, there's a lot of similarities between it. They're their own worlds, and I think if you're ever interested in them, like ask us any questions you want. We'll get back to you. We'll respond.
Yes, we will.
We'll give you all what you need.
Anything you need.
Anything you need.
You know, we'll fly out to whatever country you're in or city you're in.
$2 million.
We'll help you out.
$2 million. Pedro's got you.
I got you. This is say. Let me stop. Let me
We were gonna take you seriously. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining the episode.
7?
Yeah, I think.
Yes,
I think this is 7.
I was about to say 8.
We're only on 7. We're losing track. But thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been a really fun one. We liked sharing our backgrounds on web design and graphic design, and I think it's very insightful. Like I think people don't know enough about these industries.
I almost feel like there should be a part 2.
There should be a part 2. Let us know if you want part 2. If we hear enough clamoring from the 3 people that are watching this and listening to this, you let us know.
Yeah, we want a part 2.
Oh my god! Oh, you heard it here.
Oh my god!
3 people. It was actually 3,000 people. So you know. But no, we appreciate you everybody for watching. I mean, I know this one was probably a little bit of a long one, but we had fun. Yeah, we had fun doing it. I don't care. Anytime I get to sit here, spend with you, look at you dead in the eyes, I'm happy.
I don't know, bro. Your legs are wide open.
They are. They are. You keep licking your lips. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all have a good night.
Have a good night. And holidays are coming. So get in the spirit now.
Interesting.
What? Holidays are coming, bro.
Sounded pretty racial to me.